I'm Dan Kerrigan for VADA Live, back at the VADA Convention 2025 at the Omni Homestead, and I'm joined by the amazingly talented leader, Liza Borches of CMA. Liza, thank you for taking time to chat. I know this has been an amazing convention. You seem just engaged the entire time. What are your takeaways? What are your thoughts this year and the value of just being at VADA?
You know, my son is here for the first time really absorbing the industry, not as a kid having a great time, because this is a family convention and our kids have been coming here for years. And I told him three things. He said, you know, why do we come every year? Why do we bring so many of our associates and leaders from CMA? And I told him, I said, one is education. Fantastic speakers. This year, I think probably stronger than ever. Connection. Getting to know our other Virginia dealers better, spending time, even starting in the gym this morning. I was with William Farrell from Berglund down there. Don Hall was in there, a couple of us out there working out. And I think the third reason is contribution. This industry is so good to so many of us that I believe it's our duty to give back, and having a strong association and continuing to build the impact of this industry on Virginia, I think is the other really important reason that we're here.
What's it like just to see the group here gathered? It is an impressive gathering. There are a lot of people across various parts of the organization. What is it like to have this opportunity to gather this year in such a really concerted and effective way?
I think every year is different. You know, we talk about the resiliency of this industry, and every year when we come together at the VADA conference, we've got new and different challenges that we are brainstorming together, collaborating. I think years ago, my dad, certainly my grandfather would say this was a very competitive industry where we didn't share necessarily with our local competing dealer. It's different today. We're in this together. We are here to make sure that the consumers of Virginia have a great car buying experience and car servicing experience, and it benefits all of us to have a strong industry. So being here together in this fantastic room of dealers, sharing ideas, listening to the speakers together, and then brainstorming afterwards is, I think, raises all boats.
As far as the speakers this year, we've been hearing some themes, which is fantastic, having that tie-in across the board. And I think a part of that was, of course, concentrating on the consumer, but the role tech can play in that in the various avenues, everything from the operational side to the marketing to the digital leads. Is there anything that really resonated with you from either what the team's doing now or even from a forward-looking perspective as well?
Well, you know, AI is the big buzzword of, I was going to say, not just the day, the year, sure, maybe the decade. And I think the way that we're approaching it is, how do we use technology, whether it be some of the things that Joe was talking about, whether it be use of AI in our dealerships, which we're doing a training on with our team tomorrow. We try to say, how do we use technology to make both our associate experience better and the customer experience? Because technology isn't the answer. It's using technology to complement the people, the experience, and the knowledge that we bring to the consumer experience in our dealerships. So it's really easy to get excited about technology and forget to ask, what problem are we solving with this new tool? We get all excited at these conferences about buying new things. What problem are we looking to solve? And when we're here at this conference, we are talking about what are the problems of the future? What are the potential roadblocks of the franchise system, of consumers wanting to do business with our dealerships for another 100 years? Technology needs to be a piece of the solution. It is not the solution.
I know, and even industry agnostic, really, when you talk about technology, sometimes the pull is so strong to say, this is my solution, this is my panacea, this is how we can solve everything. How do you, as a leadership team, ensure that you're striking that balance when implementing something new and finding a technology that, from what you're saying, it supplements the experience, it doesn't necessarily supplant it?
Right. Well, I've learned some things the hard way. So we have 24 dealerships around Virginia, West Virginia, North Carolina, and I used to think, well, we need to roll something out across all of our stores at the same time. Well, that doesn't work. So we now, when we get new ideas, we'll test it with one dealership or one market of like 3 or 4 dealerships. We'll get feedback both from our consumers, from our employees. We'll also look at the ROI and the metrics that we're trying to move. So it's got to be people on both sides of the technology and the business metrics. And all 3 of those have to align for us to say, okay, this is a good tool that's worth us rolling out across the rest of our dealerships. Work out the kinks, make sure it's meeting the success metrics, and then we'll take it across the rest of our stores.
And I'd love to hear your reaction too. So we had Katie Meares, who was a speaker, and she concentrated her talk on the female customer. I'd love to hear all that and your reaction to that from the female customer and leadership side of things in the automotive space.
Katie's great. I've heard her speak many times, been on panels with her. I love her directness. She was also quite funny up there. You know, she made a point about the female consumer. If we curate an experience that's great for the female walking in our dealership, it is also going to be great for the male consumer. Both are very important. Men have a more direct path to a transaction. Women tend to want, what did she call it? The emotions and the feel around it. So if we create it for her, he will also have a great experience. I think that was a huge takeaway. When it comes to women as consumers or women as leaders, our industry right now doesn't necessarily reflect our customer base when you walk into a dealership. I love the curiosity of the male leaders in our organization to be open to the ideas of they don't always see it. They don't always see it when I walk into one of our smaller stores and realize maybe we lost a female sales associate or a manager, and I say, guys, do you realize we don't have any women in the showroom today? How did that happen? And it's not intentional. There's not men in our industry that don't want women. They all will tell you they do. But it's that intentionality of making sure that we're seeing it through the female perspective. We are going to get there. We are seeing more growth in women in all levels of our industry. In fact, right after I'm here with you today, I'm actually leading a call we have 45 women in every single leadership position in dealerships that have been in a mentor group for a year that I'm doing with a woman by the name of Danelle Delgado. And they do a weekly training. We do a monthly live call. We bring in guest speakers. Other women who have started as a sales associate or as a receptionist and now own dealer groups. We want them to see that path. We want them to hear their story, learn from as many other women as they can, because they have to see that they can get there and that there is a great path in our industry for a career and maybe future ownership.
Is there any message to maybe an up-and-coming female leader too who is experiencing the industry, running into the things you may have experienced? Anything you'd want to share with that person now? Just words of wisdom, if you will, or things you've learned along the way?
I think there's a lot of things.
Sure.
One very simple thing is to be authentically you. What women bring to our industry is equally as important as what men. We all need to be ourselves. And I think when I was younger, I tended to want to try to fit in with the guys. Whether I showed up in my Navy suit and tried to be in the same conversations, I realized quite a few years in, be me. The reason I'm invited to the table is because I might have a different perspective on a solution, for example, on a dealer advisory board for one of our manufacturers. Or I might approach a problem from a different experience. And so I tell women, come to our industry knowing that you bring something new. We want to hear your ideas. We want you to be authentically you. We want you to point out maybe some blinders that we haven't recognized. And don't try to just fit in with the guys. We need the women in here too.
And it's perfect segue, Liza, into talking about just staffing. And I know in many of the things CMA shares, it's employer of choice. And there are programs that everything from your apprenticeship program to just across the board, even within fixed ops to sales. Can you talk to me a little bit about just that concerted effort and perhaps that investment in education and how important that is and how that can be a priority for other dealers as well?
So when you're talking about an investment in education, I think that actually goes across our entire company. One of our core values, we say, is never straight, always forward. And people are like, what does that mean? So that actually stems, I think, from generations in our company of having associates and leaders who are lifelong learners. We look for people who are curious, and we ask every associate in our company to invest in themselves at least 10 minutes a day to do something to grow themselves personally or professionally. We want people who want to learn, who want to be educated, because as a company, we can provide all the training opportunities out there, but if we don't have people who are willing to invest themselves and are eager to learn and then implement and execute what they learn during a training, then the training is wasted. So I think the investment in education is really important. It goes along with finding people to join your team who care and prioritize education and investment in themselves.
Speaking to community, and it's something I know CMA values and supporting that, How do you determine just approaching community support and how you offer that? And I know your team does some really unique ways of approaching it, but I guess the question would be, just from the dealer side, how do you go about doing that in a way that others may consider to either pivot their approach or maybe have an authentic way of their community end of things?
Car dealers, I believe, in every community are some of the most generous businesses and people everywhere. A handful of years ago, we took a slightly different approach to our philanthropy, because just like all other dealers, we get asked by every nonprofit, every T-ball team, every school in town, is coming into the dealership. So we did a few things. First, we created a philanthropy committee, and we have associates from every single department and dealership involved in the committee. So each dealership has a representative, and some it's a technician, some it's an office manager, another might be a sales associate or a general manager. So we get input from all of our dealerships and markets. We then approached it by saying, how can we leverage our dollars and time to impact our communities the most? And our mission is moving lives forward, and the Peace for Community says it's about more than a check. So when we partner with an organization, we say, how can we give time? How can we give money? And how can we bring awareness to maybe the need that that particular nonprofit or organization has? And so we tie all of that together to try to leverage our impact. And then I think the even more important piece, maybe the unique piece, is we try to tie about 75% of our philanthropy back to transportation. So like we have a big bike drive at the end of every year, and we tie in with nonprofits that serve underprivileged kids. And getting your first bike is usually a pretty memorable moment. It's a kid's first piece of transportation. It's oftentimes their first piece of independence, getting out, being able to go bike ride to their friends' houses to school. And so last year we donated over 1,400 bikes and helmets to kids in the 8 communities where we do business. And that was a partnership through our associates, our vendor partners, our customers, and we all did that together. If we get an ask, for example, by the SPCA, people would say, well, the SPCA, that has nothing to do with transportation. One of the things that we do with some of our local SPCAs is we've helped their mobile pet vans, and we'll give them 5 years of service and detail everything. So we always try to figure out, where's the transportation connection? Because transportation impacts everybody's lives in our community. And when we can give in an area that we have a lot of resources, whether it be connection with lenders and parts and service, we're giving exponentially. So that's a really long answer to your question, but it's where my heart is super passionate.
No, it was amazing, Liza. There's so many elements that resonated too, and I think it comes from a place of the business, but also authenticity too. And I think the organizations you had mentioned, the support, it does. It makes sense, and it seems just from the team side of thing that you're not the only one passionate about that too, which I'm sure makes it.
We have so many associates that are so passionate about our philanthropy team, and they bring all the ideas to the table every month. I just get to help brainstorm with them, but I don't lead the committee. Laura Campbell leads our committee, and they do a fantastic job finding the places to give back where we can touch as many people as possible.
I'd be remiss not to ask about 100 years, and I'd love to ask you just personally, what does that mean to you and the family? And I know it's if that's an apology if even just emotional just going there, but I just, as far as just the business side of things, personal, professional, 100 years CMA, it's been said, it's often, what's that like? What's that mean to you?
Well, part of it is a big responsibility. I joke with my dad. He says he was the 3rd generation, and he said the 3rd generation usually is where the company fails. Historically, only 3% of companies make it from the 3rd generation to the 4th generation. So he said his whole job was to just carry it from the 2nd to the 4th and move it forward. And so we're now obviously in our 4th generation, 100 years, and last year, as we thought about how do you celebrate 100 years, it's easy to have a big party. And we ended up having lots of different events throughout the year. But what was the most impactful part of our 100 years was having my dad write a book. We named it Drive, 100 Years of Passion, People, and Progress, and put together all of the stories that we could collect, all of the people who made CMA 100 years old. And when you read the book, it really has nothing to do with cars. The book is all about the people who have made the company what it is for 100 years. And we were talking about the title of the book, and I told in one of our new hire orientations, I said, I think 100 years from now, if we write our 200-year book, I'm not sure the title is going to change. And they said, well, the word drive, that means it would be a car. In 100 years, there might not be cars. I said, well, drive, actually, the title of the book had nothing to do with cars. He said, over 100 years, it's been that drive around passion, people, and progress that kept CMA alive for 100 years. Through a lot of bumps, but we are here.
As maybe one final question, Liza, thank you again for a great conversation. For someone who is encountering a bump right now in the dealership, anything to them to help them overcome that? Just having that experience, the longevity for someone perhaps just starting out. Any words of wisdom to help with that?
Starting a business is not easy. I look back and when I read through all the bumps that CMA had been through in 100 years, I'm actually super surprised that we are still here. Surrounding yourself with the best team who will tell you the truth gets you through a ton of bumps. You got to have people that you can trust 100%. I tell my team I'm so lucky. My COO, my CFO, Matt Walsh and Rich Tritel, they're not afraid to tell me the truth, and I trust them with my life and my kids' lives. So people first. I think the second important thing when you're hitting those bumps is to know the core values that your company's been built on. We talk about our core values with our team. We don't put them on the walls. We want to see them in action. And most importantly, we want to see them in how we make decisions. And I think about March 20th, 2020, when COVID was so fresh, and Don was talking about it today. We didn't know if we were going to be selling cars. We didn't know if we could service cars. We didn't know how long our businesses might be shut down. And the first thing that we did was we said, okay, if this goes on for 4 months, what is our average payroll per month? And do we have enough cash to pay people for 4 months, regardless if we're never opening our door? And we pulled back our ESOP contribution. We took in a line of credit just to make sure we had the cash. But when your core value, one of our core values is people first, when your core values are authentic and real, you can make hard decisions quick. And I think when you're starting a new business, you do have a lot of hard decisions and you have to be able to take quick action. And if you have strong core values and you know who you want to be and who your business is, you can move through a lot of bumps.
Liza, appreciate the conversation again. You were hearing from Liza Borches of CMA Auto, and this is VADA Live Convention Coverage 25. I'm Dan Kerrigan. See you next time.